Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lillian if you're new here, and I just like to make YouTube videos about the books that I read, mostly singlet these days, but also a lot of broader fiction, speculative fiction, and sci-fi as well thrown in there. So today I'm going to be talking about a book that's by a pretty well-known Singaporean author. I think she's around my age, maybe a little bit older. And I really love all of her stuff. So I was really excited because I actually got to meet her the other day at an event in Singapore. She was here promoting her most recently released book, Sister Snake. So of course I'm talking about Amanda Lee Koh, really well known for writing Ministry of Moral Panic, which is a collection of short stories. And I actually just picked up this book on a whim when I was in the library. It's called Delayed Rays of a Star, and I loved it. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview about the main premise, but hopefully not share too much because I really encourage you guys to check this one out. It's so interesting because when I was talking to her at the event, she mentioned that her recent book, Sister Snake, took about 6 to 8 months to write, whereas this book took several years. I forgot exactly how long, but definitely years of research. And I can just tell that this is her passion project and this is an era that she's fascinated with. And it's the kind of book where I feel like if I were ever to write something, I would want it to be like this, like very inspired by a historical period or by a movement, and then like bringing that alive on the page. So let me tell you what this is about. The origin story of this book is Amanda, who lives in New York now, was going through books at the Strand, I think, and stumbled upon this photo. And there's 2 photos in the book. I asked for the book for Christmas because I read the library version and then I loved it so much I asked for it for Christmas. So in this photo you have Marlene Dietrich, Anna May Wong, and Leni Riefenstahl, and they're at a party together. You find out in the book that the party's in Berlin, and then the end of the book also finishes with a photo of them, and Anna May Wong is fixing Marlena's cigarette, I think, or her little pipe there. So the way that this book is set up is we have 3 main sections. It's pretty long. It's almost 400 pages, so it did take me a while to get through. But each chapter is just this kind of combination of a retelling of a historical event, but also extremely character driven. Also, not just focusing on these 3 women, but other people, other characters that you follow, from like the lighting guy on Leni Riefenstahl's set to the maid who's now taking care of Marlene Dietrich in her old age. So you follow these various characters as they live their lives in, I guess, basically the first half of the 20th century. And the thing that really charmed me about this book is I didn't really know who any of these women were before reading this. I mean, I kind of knew about Anna May Wong, but the other 2 I really was not very familiar with. And what really charmed me about this book is I was so absorbed into the world and into the characters before realizing, like kind of a third of the way through, that these were real figures in history. Not all of them, but obviously the 3 main women. And then I started like looking up things about them, and then I realized that Amanda is fictionalizing or bringing to life things that actually happened. And that just kind of blew my mind because I feel like that's such a special and rare gift to be able to tell a story so well that the reader is just completely absorbed in it and doesn't even like realize that it's based on a historical account or the, what actually happened. So I was really charmed by that, and then that really motivated me to finish the whole book. And I just loved, it's like kind of like having medicine wrapped in sugar because I feel like I learned a lot. I feel like I learned so much about this period of time, historical and cultural context. Amanda really covers a lot of like well-known events. Marlene Dietrich leaving Germany to become a Hollywood star, also her relationship with her husband and director, Anna May Wong's struggles as an Asian American woman, someone who was born in the US, whose father worked at a laundromat, but then faced all of the original racism and the very black and white racism of that time, and how it really, yeah, impeded her, but also just the mindset she had and the grit, and just, yeah, how it didn't define her, but it was definitely something that haunted her as well. And then Lenny, oh my gosh, Lenny is like known as a, and I mean, I just didn't really know much about her, and it really made me think, because the way she's depicted in this book, it really focuses on her pursuit for an excellent artistic product and her perfectionism and obsession almost with creating beautiful, like amazing film. And like Triumph of the Will is like really well known, like a stupendous piece of work, especially for its time. But then she's so tainted by the fact that she was basically used by the Nazi government as a propagandist, and her association with that party. So these are obviously like really important figures and well-known figures, but I didn't come into this book knowing that, or even being aware of it. I just picked it up at the library, which is what I love doing, and that's also why I love going into movies blind sometimes, is because I really like met these characters for how Amanda fleshed them out and how she presented them to me, and then later I could like go read about them. Like, I didn't come into it with so many preconceived notions, and that can be tricky or dangerous if you don't have a strong author, or you don't have someone who has a lot of skill and confidence, because maybe they were relying on that previous knowledge, or like the scaffolding of who this historical character is. But that's definitely not the case here. Like, I went into this being totally bewitched by these stories, and especially the overlap. Apparently there are some like accounts that Marlena and Anna May did have like a lesbian relationship, because I had to look that up. When that started happening, I was like, could this really be true? And there are some like accounts that maybe that happened. And just the ways in which their lives actually intertwine was really lovely to like read about. But even most of the book, they're pretty separate. I just feel like the themes of what it means to be a female artist and what it means to be a human, really driven by your passion to create. And then on top of that, yeah, you're a woman, but really being a human driven by your passion to create at that time, what kind of things you brush into, run up against. And it really was just completely my cup of tea. You know, Lenny as a director, Marlena and Anna May as actresses, but also just very thoughtful and like taste leaders and tastemakers into fashion. It just was so fun to read and learn more about their contributions. Maybe a note on the writing style. The only thing I think people might have a bit of trouble with is the writing style is like very polished and beautifully wrought and very well considered. But if you're somebody that likes a more like natural or colloquial writing style, it might be a little bit tough to get through. I sometimes did have to like be in the right mood. Like, I had to be ready to consume art, you know? I had to be ready to like really digest the prose, think about the characters. It isn't something that you can just, I think, be in any kind of mood and like pick up and immediately digest. I did have to start it a couple of times actually and recheck it out from the library, but I definitely think it's really worth it, because I can just feel all of the research and preparation and time spent in this book, and so I feel like if you are ready to receive that, it's super rewarding. It's a little bit precious. A lot of the chapters do end on like a poignant note, and I do feel like an overall sense of like yearning, or like this feeling of, you know, like the tortured artist, but more just unfulfilled or unrealized potential, and how each of these women grapple with that. Lenny is like so ambitious and so just like a force of nature. So that's like actually very refreshing. She complains a lot, and she's like not as like a sympathetic character, but it was very refreshing to read that. Marlena is more like self-obsessed, but just like in the most fabulous way ever. Like, she's so fabulous. And then Anna May, of course, is my favorite. She just like went through so much, but was just also just trying to do her thing. Like, she literally just wanted to act, but coming from like a immigrant Chinese family that obviously was akin to being a prostitute. So I do feel like maybe it is a little bit overly like poignant and precious, but I think it's a strong suit. I love it. Love that about this book. I cried a lot. It definitely like made me tap into my feelings. It made me want to create. Like how cool is that? Like it really like evoked this sense of like where is my passion and what would like propel me forward in the same way that these women are propelled forward. And then also just as someone who like had wanted to study philosophy but then changed to something more practical and who did like a classics course my freshman year of college, like I really just loved all of it's just like such the perfect book for me. Like it's so nerdy but in the best way possible. Like just all she has like a whole chapter about Walter Benjamin, and there's all these like different side characters or philosophers who like pop up, but they pop up in like such a humanistic way or such a human way. Like their characters, like these were just like the literati and the cultural leaders and like the people sitting in cafes and talking and writing and performing and acting, and they had flaws and they had base desires, but they were also like creating all of this like cultural product that would then be recognized and consumed by people down the road. And I really loved the depiction of that, and also like learning about some of these other people. It definitely makes me want to watch all of Anna May Wong's movies as well as Marlene Dietrich's movies. I'll have to consider whether I want to watch Leni Riefenstahl's movies or if you even can. Leni's like human story of living in Hitler Germany and during that time, but really only caring about filmmaking and trying to like be at the cutting edge of filmmaking and just like working through the people that she had to get to that. But then I do think she also like had her own like problems as well. But there's a lot about how she interacted with Joseph Goebbels, who was the chief propagandist for the Nazi Party. I think this book really appeals to like the student in me, and just its references and its historical notes. And I don't mean like literally like footnotes, but I just mean like the fact that it's so well contextualized in a period of historical context. Within that historical context, I think that really like appeals to the student in me, and it really like made me want to read more like literary criticism, watch more film, and that's what I want books to inspire me to do, you know? Like really to tap into that creative and literary like side of me. So maybe I'll just end with a quote that Amanda includes in the acknowledgments, which kind of explains the title of the book. I'm also such a sucker for titles of books. Like, I don't know if this is fair, but I will really heavily weigh whether I like a book based on how good the title is. And even if the book is good, if the title's not good, I just feel like the title is so important. Like, the title is the first thing the reader will see about your book. It should like encompass the heart of the book or the thesis statement of the book. And I feel like so often it doesn't. It just is like easy or like simplistic. I don't know. But this book, I love Delayed Rays of a Star. So in the acknowledgments, Amanda includes this quote talking about the photograph, the art of a photograph, because obviously she was very inspired by these two photographs that she stumbled across. So here's the quote. "The photograph is literally an emanation of the referent. From a real body, which was there, proceed radiations which ultimately touch me, who am here. The duration of the transmission is insignificant. The photograph of the missing being, as Sontag says, will touch me like the delayed rays of a star." Yeah, so I'm clearly like an emotional wreck because even just reading that makes me feel so emotional because it's so beautiful. And it is the perfect summation of what she's doing in this book because on so many levels, like on one level, because she's taking historical events and reanimating them, it's saying that like things in the past can still touch us today. And then secondly, these are literal stars, like they're movie stars. And even though they're from the early 1900s or the mid 1900s, they still have such an impact on our cultural products and our cultural medium today. And then finally, like in the literal sense, this photograph is like bringing us a picture or a representation of real people who had real lives, who had real, like, petty things about them, wonderful things about them, and it encapsulates it and transmits it to us as the viewer. And yeah, I'm just a sucker for a great title like that that works on multiple levels, that is metaphorical and neat and powerful. So I'm going to stop there because I will go on and on about how great this book is. I think I will read it again and see if it holds up, because my one thing that I'm a little bit, my one potentially negative remark is just like it is a bit dense and like hard to get through. But I wonder, now that I'm like familiar with the characters and have read a bit about the historical context, if it will read differently a second time. So thank you, Amanda, for making this book. I love it so much. I told her that and I totally fangirled, and it was a little bit awkward, but I think she appreciated it. I don't know, whatever. So I'm obviously going to give this a 5 out of 5. And if you are interested in like the Weimar Republic era, or like this Art Deco, like bursting of Hollywood, bursting onto the scene of like new art, new technologies, new culture, I feel like the fact that this is told through the main stories of 3 women as well as the periphery characters in their lives is so important and really like touched my heart. And with that, I will thank you guys for watching this video. Please stay tuned for the next one, and I hope you're staying safe and well. All the best.